First item would be adoption of the agenda.
Move. Second.
On adoption, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Two delegations this evening. First of all, from McElhaney Consulting Services, we have Bob Hudson on the Northeast Comox Stormwater Management Plan. Welcome, Bob. And the podium's back there. Good. So you can bring you forward. And do you have something on the
screen?
PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, hello everyone. My name is Bob Hudson. I'm with McElhaney, and I'm just here to give a brief update about the Northeast Comox Stormwater Management Plan, and specifically some of the projects that have been utilizing the document over the last few months and some of the things that we've learned. So, I think just about everybody's familiar with the process. It's been going on for some time now. Phases 1, 2, and 3 of the document excuse me, are now complete. Phase 3 was delivered in draft in April, and a final version is on your agenda tonight. The plan has been implemented in 2 different projects in that interim time. We'll talk a little bit about those, some of the lessons learned, and some of the minor amendments that have been incorporated into the updates in front of you today. So some examples of the plan in use. The Anandia Cannabis Research Center. I think just about everybody's familiar with this project. It's been fairly high profile. It's within Northeast Comox. It's within the specific area that the Northeast Comox plan was intended to address. It's proceeded in advance of the report being completed. It's started several months before. So they've had to jump through some hurdles that others maybe wouldn't have had to. The biggest of which is they're moving ahead before any of the neighborhood infrastructure that was contemplated in the report has been built. So this is just a site plan showing the Anandia property at Knight and Pritchard Road. And an architectural plan. I think you've probably seen this through the DP process as well. The scale's a little bit small, and I apologize for that. So, as I noted, the Anandia moved ahead with their development before completion of the report. So that presented some challenges in that they were required to meet the same standard of care, the same requirements, utilize the same infrastructure as everybody else within the Northeast Comox area, without the community-based infrastructure being in place. So they've had to work at developing their own temporary detention pond, their own facilities on site, which will be decommissioned over time when a community-based system is in place. There's provision that's being made to allow them to contribute to the community-based system once it's ready, so that they're not getting any special treatment here. In fact, they're paying a little more than their way to move ahead in the process. Because we were working on a smaller site, we had to remodel much of the area to ensure that the system was functioning, the temporary system was functioning as intended. This wasn't intended to be the case, as the entire system was designed to account for the entire Northeast Comox catchment. So breaking it apart into smaller pieces presented some additional challenges that weren't necessarily contemplated initially. We had to work with the town to develop an infrastructure plan that allowed access to the infrastructure in the short and medium term until community-based systems are built. The town still needs to be able to access and treat this infrastructure in the very same way that they would if it was built on a community basis. Anandia worked very closely with the town very recently to develop a sediment erosion control plan based on the draft bylaw that's nearing completion, I understand, Marvin. And this is rolling out. So they've very much been the guinea pig for a lot of these new processes and procedures. And really what we've learned here is the lesson learned is that temporary infrastructure and smaller scale infrastructure is challenging. You know, the Northeast Comox plan was to deal with the stormwater issue globally, and we've broken that apart, and that's created some challenges. But that's not the plan moving forward, and we're hoping that very soon the larger system will be in place. And interestingly, I understand that site works are set to begin next week, at least the installation of some sediment erosion control measures in advance of construction. The other development that's utilized the Northeast Comox methodology is Silversmith Place. Silversmith Place is a small 9-lot residential subdivision at the corner of Lazo and Guthrie, near Beckton Estates. And this project's located outside of the Northeast Comox area, but they were still required by the town to meet the same objectives. And so there are some challenges specific to this site that again weren't necessarily contemplated within the plan, but we're able to manage it working closely with the town. It's a very tight site. It's quite small. It's quite steep, relatively speaking. And again, there's no community infrastructure, so we've had to look at where we could fit all of these bits and pieces on site and still provide the town with the same level of service, the same access as anybody else in Northeast Comox or utilizing the overall plan would have to. And we're able to do that. And it's quite a nice little site. It's now under construction. I think the trees may have started to come down already. And I guess the lesson learned with this site is developer education is key. It's absolutely fundamental because we're working with new standards, with new requirements that don't exist within the town. They don't exist locally. And that's creating some, I don't want to say confusion, but there's expectations that need to be met and managed. And I think that's going to happen moving forward. We just have to be a little bit patient with it. So it is working. It's rolling out. It's been used successfully twice now, and we expect many more projects to come. So I just like to make myself available to answer any questions as well about the report or the process that I might be able to answer.
All right. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Hunt.
In the slide just before with Silversmith Place, is that a detention pond in the blue?
It is. Yeah, that's
Okay.
a detention pond right at the intersection.
Right.
The walkway continues around the pond.
Yeah.
And the tree retention in the areas around as well.
Okay. So also, and then you had mentioned something to Marvin about bylaws. So where are we with bylaws with this? Have they been, with the Northeast Woods, have they been worked on? Are they being worked on?
Staff can
Yeah.
explain that.
We had commenced working on them. We put them aside for the summer when this process kind of was set back a little bit. So, but staff are back working on the development of the sediment control bylaw, the stormwater bylaw, and the other ones that are required.
And do we have an idea roughly when those will be rolled out?
Well, we'll introduce this stormwater management plan to the new council. Staff will continue working on those bylaws. It probably won't come forward until sometime next year. So looking at subdivision and everything else that's required, you're probably looking at development in the ground starting about sometime this year, maybe? Sorry, next year.
This time?
This
Okay.
time next
This
year.
time next year. This year next time.
Thanks. Thank you.
Councillor Ken Grant and then Councillor Price.
Bob, Fred Bigelow at the airport has had some issues regarding parking out there. Is this gonna, apparently they're still gonna need some retention ponds, I would think, but does this move him along for next Christmas this year? No, next year's Christmas.
I think it's a step in the right direction. This is one of the pieces of that puzzle, right? The rolling out this bylaw, or sorry, this report, adoption, creation of the additional bylaws that are going to support this document, all needs to happen. So it's a step in the right direction for sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Price?
Yes, and thank you for the report. And in the full report it talks about the value of keeping indigenous vegetation for storm retention, although you didn't compute that in.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because you don't know how much is going to be retained? Is this something that it would be good to be advising the future applicants for subdivision that if they can keep areas, and I guess they'd have to make sure that they were kept in perpetuity and maintained? Is that a challenge?
That is part of the challenge, is making sure that those areas remain green space forever and ever. And so what we've done is we've assumed a worst case. We've taken the absolute worst case that could be developed based on land use, based on our analysis of the densest, most impervious development that meets the current zoning and current land use designations in these areas, so that we're building infrastructure that is as big as it could ever have to be made. And in that way, we're not accounting for retention of vegetation as a BMP, as a best management practice. It's just a bonus that we do that. So it's definitely something that's great to do, and it's something that we should work towards. But we've made allowance outside of that within this report to make sure that if 50 years from now those trees are cut down, the infrastructure's been sized appropriately.
But there are ways of ensuring that if an area is set aside for this purpose, it can be retained. It just seemed, because it is a forested area, within a forested area, that a primary nature does its own work.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that one. That might be something I'd have to ask Marvin to chime in a little bit on, the preserving some of these retained vegetative areas. Likely they would be dedicated as park or green space along the way, so the town would have control over them. But vegetation that's retained on private property, there is the risk that over time could be changed. Yeah. So
I know there's some areas that are more suited. I noticed on some of your maps it said high water table areas. Are there some areas where this would be vegetation retention would be a better option?
for sure, absolutely. And on each parcel, depending on what we're valuing in that retention, in some areas it's larger trees, in some areas it's wetlands and sensitive habitats. In other areas it's vegetation that can provide a buffer, for instance, and create a greenway. So it's different on every site.
And are there any concerns about the new technology making sure, because it has to be looked after, it has to be respected, it's not your roadside verge that the family can park on. Are there practices over time, because I know, like in Becton Estates, people aren't supposed to use pesticides, and there were certain things laid down, but I'm sure there's not many people who actually know that anymore.
Right.
So, because this seems to be more important, if these fail, then we have a problem. So the town has enough control to make sure that, even given that people might act irresponsibly, that we can make sure it works.
Exactly, and that's the entire intent of this process, is to create a robust system that the town has control over. We haven't utilized private infrastructure and BMPs, lot level infrastructure in our sizing of town infrastructure. So even if residents on site don't maintain their infrastructure, we still have a robust system that accounts for their site in the absence of any source controls on the site. And that's all under the town's control. And that was one of the not challenges, but one of the things we had to work through is how do we design, size, locate all this infrastructure in place that the town can have access to it. So they're the ones who are in control. The pond at Silversmith, for instance, it needed road access around it. It needed to be readily accessible by Public Works. And Andy had the same idea, that pond and the infiltration galleries and the infrastructure were all located at the edge of Military Row, where the town could easily access them. It wasn't necessarily the most convenient place for the applicant to put them, but it worked to meet the town's needs.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Swift.
Thanks, Bob. The sustainability is one of the things that's on everybody's mind as we're door knocking for the election. Would you say this is kind of the new standard for subdivisions, or at least a gold standard that we can be very proud of moving forward?
I think so. For sure, it's a gold standard. It far exceeds what other jurisdictions locally are doing in terms of stormwater management. And I think it's becoming the sort of de facto standard for the town elsewhere through the implementation of this and the use in the subdivision servicing bylaw and other studies that are being undertaken by the town now. So this is becoming the new norm, but you are ahead of the curve, I think.
Great, thank you.
Councillor McKenna.
Yes, I'm wondering if our town planner would like to elaborate on any of these points made for the benefit of our citizens.
There are no prohibitions in the document in terms of retention of existing vegetation. So if as a site goes forward or development goes forward, that there's areas that are designated to be retained or proposed to be retained, there's nothing prohibiting it. In addition, one of the aspects of it is the areas that are disturbed. There's a requirement for additional 300 millimeters of augmented topsoil. So it's a high-quality topsoil that is not only good as a growing medium, but also as a storage medium for stormwater. So those are the aspects that are being built.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Mugrat.
Thank you. Good to see you again, Bob. Thank you very much for the presentation. Silversmith Place, is all of the trenches and all of that wonderful information that I've been reading again on Phase 3, will all of that be implemented in the Silversmith Place?
Yes, the infrastructure that's being designed or has been designed for Silversmith is exactly per the Northeast Comox.
Exactly the same.
requirements.
So
Yeah.
each of the new homes that are being built then will be required to have their own roof drainage, et cetera, et
There's
cetera?
rock pits and infiltration galleries and detention ponds and
Yes.
reduced pervious surface and
Wow.
amended topsoil and retention of vegetation and all the things we
The
talked
whole-
about.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. Wow.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, Mr. Hudson, and staff will be advising us on next steps as indicated by the CEO. So appreciate your diligence in bringing this forward to a conclusion. Thank you. All right, so we'll move on with the next delegation, which is from the Quadra Gardens, and I believe that there are a couple speakers there coming forward, and you have a PowerPoint as well. So Natanya, and who else is speaking with you?
Rolando and Kevin.
Okay, so you do have 10 minutes for your presentation, and you can take the podium, and I believe your PowerPoint is up and running.
Clock's ticking.
No pressure.
Yes, 7 minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Outgoing Mayor of Comox, Paul Ives, and Council. I'm Natanya Burkhaven. I live at Quadra Gardens, 1742.
If you could stand right behind the podium, we get the sound better because there's a microphone just above you.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm here on behalf of the 32 residents, concerned residents of Quadra Gardens. We have 32 seniors, and we have 7 parking spots. 7. It's essential that we have 8 more, and 1 for emergency ambulances. Seniors need ambulances, fire trucks. Currently, the town of Comox parking lot at the main entrance is full. It's all used up, and I have a handout for you to say, this is the schedule. You just pass these down, because you won't. That's the schedule of your property for the Lions Den for parking, and this is all the spaces. As you can see, it's pretty well used up. So we have a problem. And I'm going to introduce you to my compadre and neighbor, Rolando, who will show you how we try to maneuver and get groceries and ambulances and things.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. I am resident in the same building. We are seniors and disabled people, units. There are 29 units in the building, but we are 32 people living in, because we are 3 couples there. Maybe it's very domestic for you, the location, but for somebody that doesn't know, we are right there in, where do they have to do this?
Oh, sorry about that. I will bounce this here.
The location, we are across the street of the Martinez Bistro. We are surrounded by medical offices. We are the west side of the Lions Den, that maybe you are familiar with, or the Comox Archives and Museum. We are in the next door of the Comox Library, and we have around us several major restaurants. As I mentioned before, we are The building contains 29 units, as one bedroom units. And there we have seniors and disabled, and we are 32 people. The main entrance is by the North Dean Street line 10, curious entrance, complication for the postman. and the address of the building is by Beaufort, which is our secondary entrance. This view is from east to west. You can see at the far end there will be the parking lot of a Smithy restaurant. In the right hand is the Lion's Den. In the left hand is our building with the 9 parking spots available. In the back of the building by Beaufort, to the right hand will be the library. In the left hand is our building, and there are 7 spots there already assigned to local residents. The requirements are 15 parking units or spots, from which 7 are already in the back, and then we are lacking of 8. The physical spots in the front of the building by the Lion's Den area are 9 plus 1, that is for 15 minutes parking to drop or to pick up disabled persons. The users during the daytime is the general public, tenants, ourselves, and general public. Up to 5 o'clock, practically is no conflict, a major conflict. But after hours, after the office is closed, then we have our own requirements, 8 people, but we have the Lions Bingo on Fridays that fills up everything, including, and this I will underline this, including the 15 minutes parking drop and site and the garbage spot. No place where to park, no place to turn around, and by night, a lot of senior people around, it's very hard to back up there without rolling somebody over. A part of the bingo, we have several community groups. They are using that in the evenings, AA meetings, very good number of assistants. Lions members, they have their own card games and meetings during the weeks. Rentals, because the Lions Den is for rental, you can have a party there. Other tenants from other buildings, they come there because it's no charge, then it's free for everyone, and restaurant patrons. Then it's a conflict that you can see that we have to fight for a place to park. The current parking problems for us is we have at least 3 nights where the parking is full. We have problems, as I mentioned, to drop somebody, to bring somebody, for example, my wife, or somebody, a couple that have a disabled people in the family. It's hard to drive in and to drop them on the door. You have to leave the car running there. To open the door, how do you go to your 3rd floor with the disabled person and to come back with the car running on the middle of the parking side? Shutting off any emergency that can have in the bingo with 300 people inside there. The emergency vehicles, they won't be able to get in there. Then it's no way to drop somebody else. We have to go to park away from the building and to bring people with disabilities all the way 2 or 3 blocks. In summertime, maybe it's not that big of a problem, but in winter you can imagine what the problem is. By 11 o'clock, the spots are empty again. Then we go back to the street, pick up the car 3 or 4 blocks away, and to drive in to be parked for overnight. Or, as it happened to us, you park on the street, the next day you forget that the car is on the street, and the city gives you a ticket after 2 hours. Then what we are requesting is for the council to consider and to give us opportunity to have 8 parking spots assigned for Quadra Garden only, with a sign that will be towed away if the car, somebody else parks there. And that will solve a lot of problem for us. We have to do shopping, then if you are away 2 blocks away in winter time, to have all your groceries, if you're not young, it's not that easy. Or you have to carry a cart with your shopping or your parcel or anything that you buy, it's a big problem. Then we will really appreciate the consideration for this request. Thank you very much.
All right, is there any further presentations?
One more
You have about 2 minutes, so
2 minutes.
2 minutes is left.
Go for it. Well, I'm going to be very quick. Thank you for your time. I just want to say, for my part, is that now, I've been in Comox now for 10 years, lived in this building for 10 years. The seniors are a lot more active today than they were. You know, 80 is the new 60, I know, because I'm 80. And we drive our cars longer. There's a larger population in Comox now, and that's what happened. When I first moved into the building, there was never any parking problems. But there's a lot more going on at the Lion's Den now because we are more active. And because of that reason now, we're finding it very difficult. And forget Philbrook Week and nautical days where we don't move. I don't go out on a Friday anymore. I used to go out every Friday night dancing. I don't, because if I take my car out, I can't get it back in. And I have to park somewhere and walk and make sure I get up at midnight or thereabouts and go get my car, because otherwise I'll have a ticket. So I'm going to cut my little piece short because we went over time here. But that's our problem. There's 8 people in the building right now that do not have parking spots for their vehicles. And it would be really nice if we could have those 8 spots. And the 1 spot that we have that's supposed to be a 15-minute spot, have that really designated for emergency drop-off, pick-up, and we had a fella come. We have 3 walkers and 1 wheelchair in our building, and it makes it very hard. He has to get the 1 taxi in town that takes wheelchairs. And today we came in, it was packed in there, and he had a hard time getting that fella out of that cab with the wheelchair. And it's not an electric wheelchair, so he has to push. So it's tough. So we really need that spot designated as a 15-minute spot or emergency drop-off, and for ambulances, if we can. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you for your presentations. I don't know if there are any questions from members of council. Obviously, this request will be forwarded to staff, and in due course, they will provide a report.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. So that concludes the delegations. We have for approval the minutes of the regular council meeting of September 19th.
Okay.
Do you have a question on this?
I'd like to add that it was a very well done meeting.
Thanks to Penny Bruce.
I saw the tape, I don't know about that. All those in favor? And then the minutes of the special council meeting, which is the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion is carried. And for another well-run meeting at the committee of the whole. Receipt of
Move receipt.
Second.
Trying to remember a well-run meeting.
All those in favor? Motion is carried. There were 2 recommendations of the committee of the whole, and the first was that staff be directed to retender the construction works of McLeod and Douglas early 2019 and increase the budget to $382,000.
Move that.
Second that.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And regarding Comox First Nation signage, the initiative regarding the feasibility of appropriate signage to acknowledge the territory and the name of Comox be referred to the city of Westphal.
I'll move that.
Second. And just one quick one. I did, when we were at the mutual benefit agreement celebration at Hairpen the other week. I did have a chance to mention it too, and there definitely seemed to be interest. And I just wondered, I know CIOs get together on a semi-regular basis. Is it every few months or?
Yes, I think we do it every 3 or 4 months. So I would just forward this for discussion to that next meeting.
Great, thank you. Well, you seem to be well received, the ideas.
Good. All right, so all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. And for approval of the special council meeting minutes, September 26th, and that was the tax rate, the tax exemptions.
Second that.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. Management report for receipt at page 23.
Move.
Second.
On receipt, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Any questions?
Do we get to take northeast stormwater off now, or?
I don't know.
There's the guardian of it.
There's 2 or 3 of them that we may wish to remove, but I'll defer to questions for Councilor Swift.
It was my understanding when this was going on that we were going to be creating these bylaws kind of in parallel to waiting for that report. So I have to say I am a little disappointed that we're talking about at least another year before these lots are going to get be in a position to be developed. So is there any ability to speed it up?
Well, we could look at that. It may require additional resources.
Well, I guess what I'm thinking is it would be really nice if somehow these could be available for spring, late spring, early summer rather than...
It's a 2-step process. You must realize after this is that the bylaws for sediment and erosion control have to be drafted, finalized, and prepared, and given through readings and so on. And then there's also other best management practices that have to be incorporated within the what could be the subdivisions. Then there's a subdivision process. So in terms of the timings, I did discuss this with staff earlier today, and it was suggested that perhaps in the spring, that those bylaws would be brought forward as early as possible in the spring for council consideration. Once those bylaws are passed and the subdivision standards are established, then it's up to the applicants to submit their applications for subdivision, which then go through the process with the approving officers. So it's not like it will necessarily have to take until this time next year, but in all practicality, that's probably what's going to be happening, given that it takes, probably those, I'd say January, February, March timeframe to do bylaws, and then have those parameters established, then the applicants can then apply. I think that's generally the way it's going to flow. And then, they have to do their subdivision works and so on to create the lots, and that takes time.
Yeah.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the way it'll unfold.
Yeah, there's a host of implementation measures that have to occur, part of which is land acquisition and cost recovery mechanisms. So all those have to be discussed and approved by council as well. So it's you'll be hearing a lot about this over the next several months.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that we will be hearing a lot about it. I'm hoping I'm going to be hearing a lot about it. But in any event, I think we should move this along as fast as we can
So perhaps what I would suggest for the management report is that we would then change the words completion of the Northeast Comox plan and so on to implementation of. And that would then reference the bylaws that need to be prepared, the acquisitions that need to be done. And undoubtedly, that'll be a priority for the council as part of the strat plan. We've come to this point where we can put, I think, a bow on the report itself, say that it's done. Now it's over to staff to implement it, but it will come back to council. If that is acceptable to council as a whole, then that's the way we would change it. So
I would be happy with that.
Okay.
And I think that we should try and get this through. It's no surprise it's coming, so let's get it done.
I think part of the issue was that the report sort of sat in abeyance from May till now.
Yes.
And so because of that and other pressures that planning staff have had on other projects, like a couple of them you saw this afternoon, they worked on those ones, right?
Yes, that's
so, and that work, quite frankly, as indicated by the engineer from McElhaney's, was good implementation. So they did learn some lessons, both the developers and McElhaney's and their staff, about how that would work. So it wasn't totally wasted, I don't think.
Well, I
But
just,
allowed those projects to move forward.
I'm just really anxious that we don't lose our momentum at this point.
Absolutely.
So,
Great.
thank you.
Just a quick question, if I may. Will all of this then apply to these 9 lots? And in other words, the 9 lots on that corner of Guthrie and Lazo will be
Yes.
slowed until
No.
next year as well?
No,
No.
As
won't.
the engineer indicated, they've applied the same practices,
Yes?
but they've allowed the bids to proceed.
Okay.
And that subdivision is actually outside the Northeast Comox store.
Yes, it is, I understand that, but I was...
And when I drove by there today, the trees have been cleared, so it's
Have they?
moving.
Oh, okay.
It's been moving ahead.
Okay.
Yes, no.
So I guess we're jumping into the next item, but since we are here, so there's no more public input on the
Correct.
plan now that that's
That's right.
finished. And have we had any discussions with the group who, in the Area B part of the peninsula, who are looking at drainage and flooding issues, that do we work in conjunction to
That's a regional
assure
district
them?
process.
Well, I mean, to assure them that we have got our end handled and that there is going to be no additional
Well, that's what this report says.
drainage.
That's what this report for the purpose of it. So, I mean, the other stuff we're doing is outside that, involves the base, involves highways, involves regional district, and we're participants in it. But this report, from what I've read, and I think the staff have gone over it in fine detail, it says what it's supposed to say, which is that we're not going to be experiencing any increase in the flows on those areas. So we're doing our part, and we've done it well. As it's implemented, we'll be doing our part.
So we've shared the
Worship the
report.
planner, I think.
Thank you.
Just want to say, part of the stakeholder meetings that we attended, regional district staff were there. If council receives the report tonight, then it will be, copies will be sent to all the stakeholders, including the regional
Thank you.
district.
Lovely. And does that include the Nature Trust too?
No.
Because I know that
It
they
is
were very
it is a
interested.
public document and it will be on our website.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right, on the management report then, we made that change around the northeast. Maclang, I understand there's some court dates coming up, and we'll leave that. On the wayfinding signage, you may have heard of the last few meetings, and that's still underway with staff. You know, basically, it's been implemented in the sense that council has approved the project, and now it's just a matter of staff carrying it out as far as the work plan goes. So the question really for council is whether you want that still on the management report for any reason.
I'd prefer to leave it on there until we see the whites of their eyes. When I see a sign up there, then I'll know we're
So,
moving
but the
ahead.
wording needs to be changed in the sense that
Yeah.
we're again into implementation
So
phase.
implement wayfinding
Yeah,
signage.
and that, whatever the update is, and we need to change the number from 7 to 5. I don't know why it's got a number 7 on
Because that's the way we roll.
Okay, number 7.
And fixed wing aircraft, the fixed wings,
Yeah.
that's still,
Yes, because we do need to pass a bylaw at some point once the building's completed,
okay,
to waive the building.
okay, and my next question is on the organic waste, is there any update on that from either of our RT people that go to that? Or where
I
are
think
we
we've had
with
some
that?
updates recently, but we're
Yeah.
still working on it, right?
Yes, and we still have correspondence that hasn't been answered, and so we're...
So we're still under the pilot project for now.
Yeah, you
All right.
got it, that's right.
So nothing to do there?
The only other one that I thought perhaps council may wish to include in the management report for the new council is the presentation you had on MIA, recent meeting, and whether staff, I believe staff will be bringing something back on MIA. Perhaps to see if we can just explain what happens next.
Sure, so our plan is to go out for insurance quotes from the private market, but at the same time, work with MIA and invite them along in the process, and so that at some point we'll be providing information back to council about what the coverage and costs are from private as well as from MIA, and seek a decision from council at that time.
And there's a time frame on that because I think we gave a 6-month notice to MIA,
Yes.
which more or less goes into early January or something.
Yeah.
I should have asked them last time when they were here. If we were to opt for another insurer for the next year or more, is it possible to just get back on with them? If there was a
Fine.
change of mind or heart, or?
I have a feeling that if we went and had this review and decided to stay, they would open arms to have us stay, of course, and if later on we wanted to go back, I have no reason why they would not have us join them back and be part of the family. I think
Yeah,
that's-
that was my assumption. I just wanted to make sure that that was kind of.
Yeah, I believe that's.
I mean, staff's intent here is to get some comparisons, apples to apples and so on. You heard the presentation from MIA, I did talk to them at UBCM as well, and they do provide perhaps a higher level of service than perhaps others would, but that does come perhaps with a bit of an extra cost. So that'll be something, again, the new council can consider in the early new year. All right, so we'll add that on, and we'll see what else the new council wants to add on to it later. So that being said, I don't think there's anything else in the management report. So we'll move on to the planning report on the Northeast Stormwater Management Plan, and staff are looking for a motion to receive the report and receive the management plan.
Moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, so the question really for me is on this, is that by receiving this, both our report and the actual plan, does that essentially constitute council's approval of that plan for the time being?
I would say, in essence, in terms of staff, direction of staff, yes.
Okay, because that's the number one thing it says in the executive summary on the attached plan, is that council should approve this, and then staff would implement. I just want to make sure that's what that does.
Yes.
Okay, good. Anything further? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, staff, and thank you, Michael and Mr. Hudson. All right, so that moves us on further, quite a few pages now. Just gotta find it.
Regional district.
Ah, yes, regional district minutes. So a motion to receive those.
Moved.
Second.
On receipts, all those in favor? Motion is carried. And for adoption then of the permissive tax exemption bylaw,
Moved.
all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And under new business, just an information piece around the October council meetings. This will be it until the new council is sworn in on the 7th of November. So unless we need to have a special council meeting, this will be the last meeting of this council. So just a motion to receive that.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Motion is carried.
Well, I don't know if I'm in favor.
And then on referral, we have from the regional district, the regional growth strategy bylaw amendment. So a series of recommendations that we received the letter, received the bylaw amendment, and that having received those and reviewed those in context with our OCP and regional growth strategies, that we accept them. So do we need to do those individually, or?
Yes.
So a motion to receive the letter.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? And to my knowledge, this relates simply to a procedural matter. This relates to the fact that it's whoever would be the applicant would be one of the local governments or the regional district itself.
That's correct.
Okay.
So it's in line with other regional growth strategies.
All right, all in favor? Motion is carried. And that we receive the bylaw.
Moved.
Second.
Received done, all in favor? Motion is carried. And that having received those, council has reviewed the bylaw and that they are current and, that we just have reviewed it, so that motion would be in order.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor? Motion is carried, and that finally we accept it.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor? Motion is carried. All right, so there was no other items other than reports from members of council. So we'll start with Councillor Sweat.
I was afraid you would say that. Yes,
I can't remember what I did.
yes, I'm very busy campaigning, and I've been to many events, but I don't think I've been to anything representing council other than the pickleball photo this afternoon.
All right,
So
Councillor.
that's my report.
Thank you, Councillor Knapp.
Yeah, like Councilor Swift, I've been overwhelmed with things. I can't honestly remember What, so you just put overwhelmed, that would probably be good. Nothing in particular.
We're at the vital signs launches.
Yes,
Oh,
vital signs
I was
launch,
too.
yeah, we were there.
There we
See,
go.
it's been so much, I can't remember.
Hold on, Councillor Kangat.
So we had the regional district meeting, which was pretty much the A, B, and C show, so there wasn't a whole lot on that. There was a special meeting before that regarding the 3Ls development, which you probably heard was denied before the first reading. So there was three options on that. We could deny it, we could extend it. The applicant asked for an extension to get more study work so they could give a more thorough presentation on it. And the other one was to move it on to first reading. The motion was made to deny, and it passed on 6-4. I did not agree with that. I felt that the more information that we could get from this applicant would be better to know. I think that there could be some issues that come up down the road that I think we probably should have run them through the process that was laid out. But that was not the decision. I think what happens here now is the falls are still owned by private interest, and if they want to deny access to those falls, that can now happen. I don't think that the general public really had that in mind. I think a lot of people that I've seen on social media and others had that exactly backwards, and so where this goes from here, we will find out. But currently, well, they've been denied, so their project that's dead.
All right.
So that was the deal that we had. That's what we did.
All right. Councillor Margaret.
Oh, thank you. Actually, I'd like to stand up and make a big speech, but I'll try to keep it as short as I possibly
You're
can.
not going to take the podium, right?
I considered that actually, yes. Because you see, this is my last meeting. I won't be back. I've only been here for 4 years, and it has been a wonderful experience. And I wanted to say 3 cheers to staff. We have an outstanding staff. I don't know how I would have managed without you, and I do appreciate that. And also, of course, working together with all these people at this table. How good does it get? So thanks, everybody. I think we accomplished a lot in that 4 years. I thoroughly enjoyed the experience, and I've learned a lot. So I'll miss you. Thanks.
We can always come back for meetings, you know.
Oh,
Sit in the audience. I don't think I'm doing that.
I could help us hand out brochures if you want.
All right, Councillor McKinnon, your farewell speech is limited to 3 minutes.
A very tough act to follow, but my report is not so cheery. I've been covering for Mayor Ives for the month of September.
Doing a very good
I
job.
have a bill here for Mayor Ives, which I could actually illustrate. Just some of the things that I covered for the mayor, representing the council this month, where I went to the Vancouver Island Coastal Community Library Board meeting on September 22nd, the Community Justice Center sponsored Island Campanolo lectures and lecture series with the Minister of Justice the other night with Councillor Arnott. And the Minister of Justice, of course, is a grad of Highland Secondary, which is pretty prestigious for our community to have that individual back here. I attended a function at the Comox Legion, sponsored by the ATV Club for Yana this past weekend. The Cumberland Peace Park Red Dress Campaign, representing the town. On Saturday, March 2nd, the Vital Signs 2018 report launch at the Comox Rec Center. Attended later that day the Chamber of Commerce mixer at the IHOS Gallery down on Comox First Nations. This morning at breakfast, I represented the town at the Courtenay Mayoralty candidates question and answer session. It was clear to me after listening to all the mayoralty candidates that all the problems in Courtenay are caused by Comox. I say that in jest. And, following that, at lunch today at Homeless Coalition meeting, the coalition has met with candidates, I understand, that are running in the Comox election, and good on them for doing that, explaining the goals that have been accomplished. And they're also having an open house forum at the Comox Rec Center on October 25th. The title of it is Affordable Housing Benefits Everyone, and it's kind of a workshop asking the public to make to add their sense of what some of the problems are. So having said that, It's been a wonderful 8 years for me, giving back to my community. But without further ado, I'm going to give my bill to Mayor Ives for the coming month of September. And I wish all of you well that are running in the election.
Thank you.
Checks in the mail.
It says for a track jacket. Okay, one boiled ground beef, sounds good. Councillor Price.
Yes, and I too was at the Regional District Board meeting and the 3L Board meeting, which was a very interesting. I don't think anything ever dies, and I think we have to remember too the regional growth strategy. If a new settlement node is created, that's what it is. The actual mechanics of it, what it looks like, whether there's 2 acres or 300 acres of parkland, comes at the second stage of when it goes through the planning process. And certainly, part of the process is at first reading, it can be denied or approved, and it goes on to second reading. Certainly for me, who supported denial at first, the fact that the steering committee and the technical committee, those are two key parts in the process, and they are made up of, the technical committee is all the head planners, Comox, Courtenay, Cumberland Regional District, and the steering committee is all the CAOs. And both those committees recommended denial. So for me, that was certainly where I was coming from. And also, land can be sold. And so, you've got no guarantees that the people who are offering something are going to be the people who apply for the planning permission. And, and in some ways it is surprising that, Courtenay, who it would be right up on their boundary, didn't raise the issue of, 2,000 plus people who will not be contributing to our rec centre services. I mean, that's one of the reasons we've always said we'd like the low density outside, because, we put a lot of tax-paying money into these facilities. Anyway, so it was a very interesting meeting. It was probably about 3 hours, and I think we were all glad to come out of the room and, a lot of presentations. I also attended the Comox Archives and Museum Society meeting, and we're looking at displays for next year, which will be historic houses and a window into the past. And the Regional District Water Committee, which we did approve, we had ready for the RFP for the treatment plant, subject to, it won't be issued until we have grant money, letter of support from KFN and from BC Hydro. So those are the final steps, and fingers crossed that everything will go smoothly on that. I also, and along with Councillor Grant, attended the Mutual Benefit Agreement signing at KFN.
That was a big one, and I forgot.
Yeah, it was a lovely service and on a beautiful day. So, and I think that is, thank you. And also, 28 years ago, I did first run and get elected here, and wasn't in this room, and it's been wonderful. I'd like to echo what's been said, and kudos to staff, fabulous staff, and it's wonderful. And we'll all be in recovery. How do you get over? Yes. So, thank you all. It's been wonderful working with you guys, and I think we've achieved a lot, and lots to be proud of.
Thank you. All right, I'll just report briefly. I was away for pretty much the last 3 weeks of September. UBCM initially, we had some really good meetings with ministers there on the health front, on the infrastructure side, and the First Nations side. So that was more or less following up over previous UBCMs, and I think those were well received. And staff supported all that, which was great. A couple weeks away, so thank you, Councillor McKinnon. And then came back to attend the Vital Signs launch yesterday. Had the photo op for the pickleball courts earlier today. And it struck me that being up there was sort of come full circle. When I was Rotary president in 98, 99, we built the hockey box there, or roller rink, however you want to describe it. And here we are, 16 plus years later with a new recreation facility, which of course is one of the reasons I initially got involved with council, is to improve recreation, Aspen Park being one example, and then of course ultimately the water park down at the waterfront was a culmination of that. And I've told many people the story, but the first time we had a strat planning session with the new council in 2002, 2003 was Councillor Crossley put all of his votes on the water park. So we told him he couldn't do that, but he insisted, and eventually, of course, it got built. So again, congratulations to staff for bringing that all together. And I did tell Al Fraser that he can retire now that he's done all that. So he doesn't want to. And this afternoon I had a meeting with a couple of residents in the Claudet Estates subdivision who have been sending us lots of letters about bylaw issues. And I did assure them that staff are looking at the bylaw issues around vacation rentals and potential encroachments into the conservation covenant, but that staff would not be trying to resolve neighborhood-related issues. So I'm not sure they entirely got that message, but hopefully they will focus their efforts on things that we can try to address for them, given the appropriate evidence. So it's unfortunate it's come to a bit of a neighborhood dispute, but hopefully staff can focus in on those two areas, which of course they have been doing. So we'll see what comes of that in the next number of weeks and months, I suppose. Yes, it's definitely been a pleasure to work with this council. Of course, one side of the council table is all going to retire to more bucolic pastures and other ventures, and the other side is madly out there pounding the pavement and trying to get back to this table. So best wishes to everyone on both sides of this table, and I think we've accomplished a lot by staying focused on what's best in the interests of the community, and to really put a bow on it to say that it's been a pleasure working with all of you, and I'll watch with interest. It's a bit scary though, because all those mayors up there are all now deceased. So, too late to run for re-election now. I don't want that picture going up there. Just
Maybe I'll just not.
That's kind of scary. So, good luck to everyone, and I'm sure we'll see you around. So.
Yeah, it's been great working with all of you folks.
Can I just add to it? Thank you for your leadership over the last several terms. I think we came a long way. I think with the council and all those that are leading, we accomplished a lot, especially in the last 4 years. It took a long time to get some of our plans and programs into place, which I think you played a pretty key role in a lot of it. And I think that we just really got on a good step and did good work over the last 4 years. So thank you all for that.
Yeah, no, it's been a good team effort.
Thank you very much.
All right. Enough of that back patting, we've got to
I would like to add though that I did get a dog out of the last election who is my faithful friend and will see me through retirement.
Awesome.
Lovely.
All right, so media questions at this time, Troy? No, nothing. And Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's not a question, if I may just make a comment. On behalf of myself and your dedicated peanut gallery, I'd like to say thank you from the community. And I, more than anybody, realize what a difficult job you've faced, and I look forward to trying to live up to the standard that you've set. I would like to echo the councillors that mentioned staff. From a citizen's perspective, I think that the staff is vastly underrated. From the planning department to the front-end counter people and the administrator, deputy clerk. I know that's not the phraseology anymore, but everybody treats me personally great, and I truly appreciate that. You've left the town in good stead, and I think that the citizens deserve to give you a great thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, and best wishes on your campaign.
Yes.
All right, motion to exclude the public under section 91K and negotiations.
Second.
All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned until we...
So I voted against that.
We're going to adjourn until the next election.